Hello there guys, Francis Gray here and welcome to my YouTube channel Joker Laugh. And in today's video we're going to be making some very festive Christmas baubles based on the cult classic Tim Burton film The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'll see you after this. Okay guys, so I went ahead and I found these in my local B&M store, and they are the characters from the ever awesome Nightmare Before Christmas animated film from Tim Burton. So I figured when I saw these would make awesome Christmas baubles or Christmas decorations. So as you can see there, we've got Jackskeleton in the Santa suit, we've got Sally, we've got Jack just as normal, and then we have the dog, the ghost dog, and then we have Oogie Boogie. So in order to make these work, I had a look around and I also found these, which are just create your own Christmas craft baubles. So they come in a pack of 4. And as you can see here, we have too many characters. But thankfully, when I bought these, my daughter said that she had 2 spare from a craft project that she made a few years ago. And as you can see there, they aren't scratched or anything. So these will work really nice. So yeah, I can see these working brilliantly. So let's go ahead and open these up and have a look at how they fit inside. So these are all universally the same size, so as long as all characters fit in, we should be good to go. Okay, so those are the biggest figures, so obviously Sally will fit by default. Where you going, Jack? So I can see these working brilliantly. So let's go ahead and crack on with the build. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take some measurements on the inside circumference of the baubles, and I'm going to see if I can 3D print a static base that will be universal for all the baubles. Okay, let's get 3D printing.
Later that same evening.
Okay, so after some measuring of the diameter of those baubles, this is what I made in a software called Matter Control, and after printing them out, I give them a quick simple test. They fit fine. So yeah, next stage is into the spray booth and give it a base coat of black. Okay, so now that these are nicely base coated, let's start with the first build. Step 1. Jackskeleton. So I'm going to start things off by super gluing Jack to the new 3D printed base. In order to do that, I'm just going to use some regular everyday super glue and then just make sure that it gets into all the nooks and crannies underneath, and then I'm going to squish him right bang in the centre.
3 hours later.
So now that he's glued nicely in position, for the next stage I'm going to go in with some white from Model Air, and I'm going to go ahead with a nice detailing thin brush, and I'm going to add some of those white streaks that we all know that Jack has on his suit, because the version that you get in the blister pack, it's just all one tone black, and as we all know, Jack likes to rock a nice striped suit. So now that Jack's looking a little bit more like Jack, for the next stage we need to go ahead and recreate the scene. So the scene I want to recreate is the iconic graveyard that we see Jack wander in a few times in the film. So in order to create that look, we're going to go ahead and we're going to 3D print some tombstones off. So I went on Thingiverse and I found just a generic, very simple, basic tombstone set, and I decided to pick 2 or 3 of the ones that I really liked, and then I decided to 3D print them out. And at the moment now, after a good sanding, and I'm giving it a base coat of black. Now the reason I'm going for black is because it's going to show those dry brush greys when we go ahead and lighten this up in a moment. So I'm going to kick things off with going in with a natural grey from Model Colour, and I'm going to go in with just a regular brush and I'm just going to give it a couple of coats just as a nice foundation to build up upon.
A few moments later.
So I decided to go ahead and print off a RIP, and this was a little bit tricky to get it to fit to scale, but thankfully it worked really nice. Basically just to add a little bit more interest to the gravestone. Originally I was just going to freehand something, but I just felt like it looked a little bit too simple, so yeah, good old 3D printer to the rescue. And now I'm going to go in with a light grey from Model Colour, and I'm going to use a fixed stipple makeup brush, and I'm going to take off most of the paint and then just use a little tiny bit to add a nice edge highlight to all the parts. Now this really goes a long way to make this look more eye-catching and a lot more 3D. So yeah, good old makeup brush wins again. So it is at this moment I then realised that Jack doesn't have any nostrils, and in the movie he does. So I'm going in with a very fine detailing brush and some black from Model Air, and I'm going to go ahead and recreate those nostrils. So for the next part I'm going to go in with some regular standard milliput, and I'm going to mix equal measures of part A, part B, and then we can use this to go ahead and model the terrain of the graveyard. So now that the clay's on there, for the next stage I'm going to go in with just some water on the end of my finger, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth the top surface of milliput. This clay works really good with water. It seems to just like really smooth the top surface. I wouldn't go too crazy with the water because it can get a little bit mushy if you like, but just a little tiny bit to just rub on, it really makes this smooth out beautifully. And now in the movie there's these raised wavy patterns that seem to flow everywhere, so in order to recreate those I'm going to go in with a wire brush and I'm just going to get where I can, and I'm just going to make some nice groove lines, and then that should go a long way to making this look a little bit more screen accurate.
What?
And next I'm going to go in with a sharp scalpel, and I'm going to get into the areas that I couldn't reach with the brush, and we're going to go ahead and leave a few thicker, deeper seam recesses, and that should, when we go to head and create like a black wash later on, that will help run into those deeper grooves, and that'll give a lot more contrast as we go. And while the clay is still moist, we're going to go ahead and we're going to squish that rest in peace tombstone into place, and then we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more milliput around the sides just so it looks like it's dug into the ground and the ground's built up around it and it looks a little bit more secure. And once that is being modelled, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a pumpkin. Now I went ahead and I 3D printed these and I painted these off camera just to try and save a bit of time, and they turned out really nice. So I know in this scene where he's walking through the gravestone, the graveyard, we don't really see any pumpkins, but I really want this to come across as like Halloween town. So I thought, why not just add a few little extra pumpkins to some of the dioramas, and hopefully that'll sell the illusion.
You get the idea.
So once all that was left to fully harden and fully dry, for the next stage I'm going to go in with just some everyday black acrylic, and same again, a stipple paintbrush, and I'm going to take my time and I'm going to make sure I get into all the little nooks and crannies of the base, because this is a very important part. I have to make sure that all surface areas are coated, probably at least 2 coats, because there's no point adding detail and to then find out that you've missed a bit. So this is really important that I get into every little square inch of this part of the model. And once all that's been left to dry, for the next stage I'm going to go in with a natural grey from Model Colour, and I'm going to use the same makeup brush and I'm going to add a top surface layer, but I'm not going to cake it on because I don't want to disturb the undertone blacks that's run into the recesses that we added earlier on. So yeah, so this is just like a top dry brush, if you like, of the grey, and then but to the eye you can see these black recesses, much like the what you see in the movie.
Alright.
Okay, so before I start adding some of the more detailed parts to this, I'm going to go ahead and super glue this to the underside so we have that dome shape that will go inside the bauble nicely. And in order to stick this, I'm just going to go in with just some regular everyday super glue. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave this a couple of hours to fully dry.
6.5 hours later.
And for the next part I'm going to go in with some white from Model Air and the same makeup brush, and now I'm going to add a very light dry brush to the center part of the model, so it starts like brighter and then it like blends out darker, so the eye is attracted to the center piece, which is obviously Jack standing there. So yeah, so don't want to go too crazy with this, just a very light dry brush right bang in the middle.
Huh?
And now I'm going to go in with some sick green from Game Colour, and I'm going to go in with a tiny amount, and I'm just going to paint the stalk parts of the pumpkins. I'm not 100% sure if they are titled stalks, so forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but seriously, what else could there be? Stems, maybe? I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments below.
Right.
Okay, so for the next part I'm going to go in with a little bit of black watercolour and a makeup brush, and I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of a darker tinge around the corners, so it basically blends from the darkness into the more brighter colours. And now that that's dry, I'm going to go in with some regular black, same again from Model Air, and I'm just going to repaint Jack's shoes so they look a lot more vibrant and polished. And you might have also noticed that I did the yellows in the pumpkin's eyes. That's basically just yellow from Model Colour. And now that Jack's finished, for the next stage I'm going to go in with some black glue from the glue gun, and I'm going to put a small blob on the back. Now the reason I'm going for black glue rather than the normal clear one is just so it blends in with the base, because if you go clear you kind of see the glue and it stands out like a sore thumb, so black is a lot better. So you haven't got very long working time with this, you've literally got only a couple of seconds to try and get it as straight as possible. And then next I'm going to go in with just some regular normal everyday PVA glue, and I'm going to put a tiny little bit of it around the edge seams, and then when we go ahead and add the other bauble in place, that once that's left to dry, that should be nice and secure. And now back in with the black glue, and same again, just another blob on the other side. And then same again, I haven't got very long working time before it solidifies, so it's really important that you get it all to line up, especially the top where the thread needs to go, because you don't want a bit sticking out looking a bit like a sore thumb. So yeah, so there you go, he's nice and secured. So let's go to the next stage.
10 seconds later.
Okay, so now that the bauble is finished, I need to go ahead and add some twine. So I bought this from a local craft store, and I got a variety of different colours so we can add them as we go. So I'm going to start off with going in with some of the black and white twine, because I think that is perfect for Jack. So I'm just going to make sure it goes the same length as my green mat, and then that way they're all going to be exactly the same length. So they'll dangle just nice. So yeah, so just get it through the hole there, and then just curl the end, feed it through, and then pull it nice and taut. And yeah, and then you got yourself a nice Christmas bauble for your Christmas or your Halloween tree. Okay, let's crack on with bauble number 2. Step 2. Zero the dog. Okay, so I started by looking on Thingiverse, and I found the gravestone of Zero, which was uploaded originally by a user called StudSoda3983, and it basically features all the scene from where Jack just walks past the gravestone, taps it, and then Zero flies out from underneath, and that's really what I'd like to incorporate in this build. So obviously I'm not going to fit everything in because it's only a small bauble, but I'm hoping that we can make the gravestone a definite feature. Okay, let's get 3D printing.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so here are all the parts to the Zero house / gravestone. So I ended up slicing this in half just so it would be easier to 3D print. So the only supports up here on the little cross. So yeah, once we clean this up, we'll go ahead and stick it together, and then we can try and apply it to the base. So in order to glue this, I'm just going to go in with some regular super glue. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that a couple of hours to fully dry.
8 hours later.
Okay, so I went ahead and printed off another base for this. Now, I made it like kind of cobblestoney. Basically, I'm not going to keep that. That's just so when I add modelling clay later on, the clay's got something to hold on to. Because if it was just a flat surface, it'll probably just keep coming apart. So this should work out great. So yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and use some regular super glue and super glue it in place.
No way!
So now that's all nicely glued in place, for the next stage I'm going to go in with just some regular black acrylic, and I'm going to give this a nice base coat. Okay, so now that that's been left to dry, for the next stage I'm going to go in with some natural grey from Model Colour, and we're going to go ahead and give this a dry brush. And now that that's dry, I'm going to go in with a light grey again from Model Colour, and then we're going to give it a very light dry brush just to bring up some of those highlight details.
The following day.
And now that all that is nicely dried, for the next stage we're going to go in with our old friend regular standard milliput. And now that it's fully mixed, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a base of bulk. And now we're going to go in with, same again, just black acrylic, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that this has got at least 2 coats, and it's going to get into all the nooks and crannies, and then that's going to work great as a base coat that we can build upon.
20 minutes later.
And now we're going to go back in with, yes, you guessed it, natural grey from Model Colour, and we're going to use a makeup brush, and we're going to give this a nice once over coat. Okay, so for the next bit I'm going to go ahead and glue this in place with just regular old super glue. Okay, I'll just put this to one side and leave to dry.
More moments later.
And for the next part, I'm going to go in with some white from Model Air, and we're going to go ahead and give a general highlight dry brush just to bring out some of those foreground details.
Alright.
And now I'd like to go ahead and try and recreate that iconic looking Tim Burton-esque fence that goes around Zero's gravestone. Now, same again, I haven't got a lot of room to model this, so I can't do the full thing justice, but I wanted to incorporate it a little bit. So I'm just going to go in with some sharp snippers, and I'm going to try and glue these parts in place, and then that will give a little bit of a hint. Yeah, there is a little bit of a fence there, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's better than nothing. And now a quick test, does Zero still fit? And yes, he does. So yeah, so let's go ahead and secure him in place. Same again, regular old super glue. Yep, I think that's going to work really well. So yeah, so for the next stage, let's go ahead and place him in the bauble. So it's going to be the exact same steps that we took previously with the jackskeleton bauble. So there's no point me retelling you the exact same thing again and again. So I'm just going to fast forward through this part. Okay, looking good. So let's go ahead and add some twine. Okay, so 2 down, 1 more to go. Well, for this video. Step 3. Sally. So, for the next part, we're going to crack on with Sally. And I thought this character would work well also in the cemetery scene, because there is a scene in the movie where she runs off to the cemetery and then she sees Jack, and then she's like kind of hiding behind the gravestones, and she sees that Jack's on a bit of a downer, a little bit sad, and that is just a nice moment of the interacting between the two characters. So I'd like to capture that if I can. So yeah, so we're going to go for another graveyard scene. So I'm going to need to make some model and clay sticks. So I'm going to go ahead and recreate the same cobble base that we did for the Zero Dog. Okay, so here we have a nicely fresh printed new base, and this will work really well to hold on to all that milliput later on. So now that we've got our base, let's go ahead and super glue Sally in place.
"15 minutes later."
So now that we've got the base to build upon, for the next stage I'm going to go in and recreate one of the tombstones. So it's very much matching the Jack Bauble. So it's not the same tombstone, this one's slightly smaller, but it's going to be the same kind of steps to follow. So it's going to be a black base coat, and then we're going to go in with a natural grey from model colour. And then we're going to go ahead and give it a base coat tone of just general everyday normal grey. And then I went ahead and felt that this was also a little bit on the simple side, so I went ahead and printed another RIP, but this time a little bit smaller, glued it in place, and then once that's dried I then went over with same again natural grey, and then left that to dry, and then we finished it with a nice dry brush of a light grey. So now that that's going to be left to dry, we might as well crack on with good old Sally. Okay, so same as the Jack model, it's just the base coat colours on Sally the model, and it's not very screen accurate, so I'm going to go ahead and repaint it all. So I'm going to start off with a gory red from Game Colour, and I'm going to paint her hair a more screen accurate shade of red. So yeah, let's start the painting montage.
Montage!
Yep, a world of difference there compared to what it used to be. A lot more detail now. So let's crack on with the base. Okay, you guessed it, time for the milliput. So same as the other two, I'm just going to go ahead and use this to build up the bulk, and then we can go ahead and think about adding some extras. And now on to, again, the water smoothing stage. So just going in with a sculpting tool, with a little dab of water on it, and then that blends the milliput out beautifully. And then once that's all nicely smoothed, we can go in with that steel brush, and we can go ahead and make those iconic scratch line marks that appear in the whole film. And then to finish things off, we can go in with a sharp scalpel and get any of the areas that we couldn't get to with a brush and add some deeper recesses. So once again, we can go ahead and add a little bit of shading later on. So while the clay is still moist, we're going to go in with that other tombstone and we're going to gently push it into place without disturbing what we've already added. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to add 2 pumpkins. Again, I did these off camera just to try and save time. And these will really help connect this scene with the scene of Jack's bauble, if that makes any sense.
24 hours later.
So now that the medley pot is nicely dry and everything is securely fastened in place to the point I can't remove them, for the next stage I'm going to go in with just everyday normal black acrylic paint, take me time, get into all the nooks and crannies. It's going to be a nightmare to get under the pumpkins and around the tombstone without getting black on it, but we'll persevere and see how we get on. So yeah, so I'm going to try and give it at least 2 coats and then leave it to dry, and then we can crack on with some grey or natural grey, should I say, from Model Colour. And yeah, same again, just same makeup brush, give it a general once over, not too thick because we don't want to get it into the black recesses. So just a quick once over, leave it to dry. And then once dry, we can then go in with some light tone grey from Model Colour, and then just give a general dry brush highlight to it. And then once that's done, we can go ahead and super glue the underside part of the bauble and then leave it a few hours to fully dry.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so in with the thick green now. We're going to go ahead and add green to, again, the stalks or the stems. Still don't know what to call these things. But yeah, just a general once over coat and then leave it to dry. And then maybe give it a highlight with something a little bit brighter. And for the next part, I'm going to go in with some black watercolour and a fine makeup brush, and I'm going to add a dark transition around the edges so it blends from the darkness into the light. And now I'm going to go in with more black and I'm going to tidy up our shoes where we accidentally dry brushed over it, and a few more touch up parts here and there, and we can crack on with the next step.
The next step.
So same again, no point describing what's going on here because you've seen it twice before. I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward. So last but not least, we're going to go in with the black and white twine and we're going to go ahead and do the exact same step. So yeah, fast forward. Okay guys, so here they are, all finished, and I have to admit I am really happy with how all these turned out. My only slight gripe is I think Zero isn't exactly level, so this should have been a little bit over, but seeing as I've only got a few seconds to play with the glue, it could have been a lot worse. So, but once it's dangling on the tree, you'll never notice. So yeah, so all in all, I'm super happy with these. I think they're really cute, and especially these two because they mirror each other perfectly, and it looks like Sally's longingly looking at Jack, and really fits the character. So yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed building them. If you have, please slap that like button, share on Facebook and Twitter, because it helps new people find the YouTube channel, which I'm always appreciative. Thank you for any help. If you have any comments, comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future builds, and especially part 2, because I'm going to be making more of these. And if you want to be a really awesome viewer, please take 5 minutes to check out my Patreon page, and with your help I can do way more videos. So that's more videos for you and a lot more work for me. And that's about it really. Thank you for watching, support in any way that you can, and I'll see you in part 2. Thank you for watching.